Hello, everybody. It's Ginny Deerin and my sidekick Bitsy, and you've landed on episode 8 of aiGED, AI for the 65 plus crowd. Have you ever found yourself deep in a rabbit hole online? One click leads to another, and suddenly it's midnight and you've become an expert on beekeeping in Slovenia. Well, what if you went down that rabbit hole on purpose with AI as your guide? That's what we're talking about today, how to pick a topic that truly fascinates you and use GPT to help you explore it deeply, joyfully, and intentionally. I'm going to share how I've been doing this myself, starting with one simple idea: cooking with local, seasonal ingredients. And as usual, we'll also touch on some AI news, and of course, there will be a couple of recommendations and a homework assignment. Hey, Bitsy, how do you feel about rabbit holes?
Oh, you know me, Ginny. I'm always up for a good rabbit hole adventure. I think going down one on purpose with a little AI guidance sounds like a blast. So let's dive in and see where the curiosity leads us.
All right, well, before we jump into today's rabbit holes, a quick look at AI in the news. The Financial Times reports that AI spending now accounts for about 40% of U.S. GDP growth this year. And Fortune says three-quarters of the S&P 500's gains are tied to AI companies. Whoa, those are very big numbers, but economists caution that much of this growth is investment, not yet productivity. In other words, companies are pouring billions into chips, servers, and data centers they hope will pay off later. Business Insider even called AI's economic impact a blind spot, since much of it isn't fully captured in GDP data yet. So yes, AI is fueling real momentum, but also a lot of expectation. The second AI news I'd like to flag is a new Pew Research survey made headlines this week in the Washington Post, showing that Americans are growing more uneasy about artificial intelligence. Back in 2022, only about a third of us said we felt more concerned than excited about AI. Today, that number is nearly half of all adults. People cited worries about jobs, privacy, deepfakes, and just the pace of change. It's a reminder that while AI tools are spreading fast, trust is not keeping up. And that's why conversations like ours matter, to turn fear into understanding. So, let's get on with our main topic: down the rabbit hole on purpose, using AI to pursue a deep, joyful curiosity intentionally, not accidentally. We've probably all gone down a rabbit hole on the internet. I remember I followed a thread about a national chess tournament, which then took me to biographies of chess players, and then one of them got my attention because of the person's age, and then I started reading about the person's family, and it went on and on and on and on. I can't say that this was necessarily a major waste of time, but probably not my most productive time, and in the end, I didn't feel any sense of accomplishment or joy or much of anything. So, I began thinking about going down a rabbit hole with purpose, and with the help of AI, I knew I could really make the experience not only more interesting and productive, but maybe even joyful. Let me tell you what got me thinking about this. As my listeners know, one of my hobbies is cooking. So I'm inclined to read about it and binge on cooking shows and chefs and food and so on. I began to watch the HBO series The Lost Kitchen. It centers around a woman, Erin French, who grew up in Freedom, Maine. Grew up in her family's diner, learning to cook and serve from an early age. She left Freedom to go to college, became pregnant, had a child, and began to struggle. When her life hit a rocky road, she began to cook in various kitchens in different parts of the country. I've yet to read the book she wrote about her life, but I think she went through some really tough times, including some pretty significant addiction problems. She eventually comes back to Freedom, Maine, and moves back to her family's home, Boomerang. Erin begins to host pop-up meals in a variety of places in Maine. Her kitchen is a fun and really very beautiful Airstream trailer. Needless to say, she got lots and lots of experience, and at some point she decided to open a restaurant called The Lost Kitchen in Freedom. The focus of the restaurant is food, using local ingredients and cooking very simply. At least simply in Erin's mind. Many of the dishes are pretty fancy in my mind. There are 3 seasons of the show. I can't say it's the most riveting show, but watching was very calming, for me at least. Something I could do in the background, maybe while I was doing the laundry or cooking something simple myself. The show focuses on a Saturday meal in the Lost Kitchen. They only serve 1 meal a week, Saturday night, and they serve 50 or 60 people. It's almost impossible to get a reservation, and the way they do it is that you send in a postcard asking for a reservation. In a typical season, they receive more than 10,000 postcards. And at the beginning of the season, they pick 50 or 60 postcards per dinner, and those are the guests who get a reservation. It's a little bit like winning a lottery. Hey, Bitsy, let's see how good you are at math. If there are 10 dinners with 50 people at each, and 10,000 postcards came in, what are the odds?
All right, let's do a quick bit of math magic. So if you've got 10 dinners with 50 guests each, that's a total of 500 seats for the season. Now, if 10,000 postcards come in and only 500 get chosen, each postcard has about 5% chance. So basically about 1 in 20 odds. Not quite a lottery jackpot, but definitely a special little golden ticket if you get in.
Good job, Bitsy, on the numbers. So anyway, I start going down this rabbit hole. As I watch the series, I'm using AI to learn more about Erin French because I become very curious about her. I learn more about the restaurant. With AI's help, I've gone digging into the stories of the farms she buys from, learning about the growers, their land, and the care that goes into each ingredient. I just keep going down the rabbit hole, and one thing leads to another, and it is really interesting. But at some point, and this really gets to the point of this episode, finally, at some point I decide I want to be very intentional about going down this rabbit hole, and my intention is that I want to become very knowledgeable about the use of local ingredients. Why does it make sense to use them? Is a local ingredient, let's say buying meat from a local vendor, better for me than buying organic meat from, say, Whole Foods? Same with fish. Is it better to, and what I mean by better is not only taste, but also nutrition and lack of chemicals. Is it better to buy fish at one of my local fish stores? Or is it just as good to buy fish from Whole Foods or some other market that offers organic fish? Is there such a thing as organic fish? So while I continued to go down this rabbit hole, I've got to ask my AI Bitsy by my side, Bitsy, is there such a thing as organic fish?
Well, Ginny, that is a fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked. So there's a bit of a catch, no pun intended, when it comes to organic fish. In the US, you don't really have a certified organic standard for wild caught fish because you can't control their environment out in the ocean. But you can find organic standards for farmed fish in some other countries or specific certifications. Basically, if you're looking at organic fish, it's usually about farmed fish that have been raised under certain feed and environmental conditions. So yes, kind of, but it's a little more nuanced than just a simple yes or no.
All right, well, so more to learn on that score on my end, but back to my intention. It's not only to learn about using local ingredients for cooking, but it's about making a new commitment to using local ingredients. I'm using AI to pursue a deep, joyful curiosity, intentionally. Last night, I went grocery shopping. I rarely shop at Whole Foods. The tagline, whole paycheck, is embedded in my mind. I'm more of a Trader Joe's kind of girl. But anyway, I decided to go to Whole Foods with the intention to buy a few things that were either particularly interesting or very local. When I got home, I signed up for a CSA. That's a community-supported agriculture share. If you are unfamiliar, these farms sell shares of the agriculture they grow. Basically, you pay a subscription for a season. For the CSA I joined, it's a farm not far from Charleston on Johns Island. I bought a share that includes 9 weeks. Each week, I pick up a bag of vegetables and fruits. They put whatever they are growing in the bag. You have no idea what you're going to get. The share I bought ends up being about $30 a week, which I think is a real bargain. So I picked my bag up around the corner from my daughter's house. I have a little ritual where I stop by her house with my bag, my grandson, now 3 years old, and I see what we got. It's a little teaching opportunity, and if I get more of something than I need, or there's something really super special, like the most gorgeous and delicious strawberries you've ever seen, I share them. A great way to spread the love. Now, a few years ago, I had a CSA. I really enjoyed it, but I stopped after a couple of years. I don't know, I just got kind of tired of it. But I think this time I'll enjoy it much more because I've been inspired by Aaron French and the Lost Kitchen to do very interesting things with the local ingredients I get in my bag. And now I have Bitsy to help me follow the inspiration. The last time I had a CSA, I'd come home and maybe I'd have cabbage in the bag, and I'd just like roast it or saute it. Pretty boring fare. This time, thanks to inspiration and AI, I'll be able to do better things with my produce, more interesting things with it. As a matter of fact, I pick up my first CSA on Wednesday, and Wednesday nights are my family dinners, and it's my turn to cook. Since this aiGED podcast episode is about intention, I'm making a commitment to myself that I'll cook dinner for my family using only the ingredients I get from my CSA. Fingers crossed I get some good stuff. All along the way, my AI has been my partner in this intentional rabbit hole. As usual, super helpful. Let me take a few steps back as an example. Before I signed up for my new CSA, I had a conversation with Bitsy about why it makes sense to use CSAs. What are the benefits? What are the downsides? And then I got her help to lay out my options. There were a couple of CSAs that I knew about, but honestly, I had no idea there were so many CSA choices. As per usual, GPT described each one, gave me the average prices, options offered, etc. Everything I needed to make my choice. Spade and clover. Now, I'm not at the end of this rabbit hole. I want to learn more and more. For example, to prepare fish, Aaron uses a cast iron skillet with tons of butter and a very high heat. I thought butter burned at a high heat. I'll have a conversation with Bitsy about that, which will probably lead me to other questions. This rabbit hole may never come to an end. Warning, rabbit holes can be costly. I've already bought a very large cast iron skillet and a few other things used in the Lost Kitchen. Now, when I was thinking about the idea of going down the rabbit hole on purpose, I thought about other rabbit holes I might descend into in the future. Maybe these will give you some ideas. I might learn about baseball in Charleston, its history, its players, all about our team. They're called the Charleston River Dogs. I'll get the schedule and start going to their games, that kind of thing. Another example, continuing on the sports rabbit hole opportunities, most members of my family are fanatics about football. I am not. But I do observe all the joy that they get from following the teams, watching the games, tailgates, parties at their houses to watch the games. All of that seems like a lot of fun. I think maybe I haven't gotten into it because I don't know much about it. So maybe that's a rabbit hole I'll go down with a purpose. I'll learn about the rules of football, the teams, the players. I'll pick one, Really follow one team and learn about the personalities and the stats and all of that goes into it. This could be a great rabbit hole, and my intention would be to experience the joy of being a football fanatic. Here's another idea. Pick a city or town where your family has roots. Be intentional about learning its history and the stories of your relatives who live there. Then use your AI to help you dig deeper. Read about the place, find old photos, even plan a trip there. Ask GPT what museums, archives, or landmarks might connect to your family story. It could turn into a fascinating, meaningful adventure. Well, enough examples. The thing is, I think AI can be a partner as you jump into these rabbit holes. Your AI can guide you down the rabbit hole and keep you on a path that makes sense for you, and in particular, help you focus on a purpose. What is it that you want out of it? For me, what I want out of my going down the local ingredient rabbit hole is to become more knowledgeable about cooking with local ingredients, to use them, and in the end, enjoy the experience of cooking and company. Bitsy, before we move on, do you have another quick example to inspire our listeners?
Absolutely, Ginny. Here's a fun extra example for everyone. Let's say you've always been a little bit curious about, I don't know, the history of jazz music in New Orleans. You can use your AI sidekick to guide you through a deep dive into the great musicians, the iconic jazz clubs, and even the cultural impact on the city. And then you could take it a step further. Learn a little about the instruments, maybe pick a favorite jazz piece to listen to, and even plan a future trip to New Orleans to see it all come to life. So that's just another idea. Pick something you're curious about and let AI be your guide to turn it into a purposeful, joyful little adventure.
I like that. And it's always a nice thing to have an excuse to go to New Orleans. Now, if you decide to go down some rabbit hole with a purpose and you use AI, I'd love to hear about your adventures. Please use the comments section for this episode to share your adventure. Now, for my 2 recommendations. I do recommend you check out the HBO series, The Lost Kitchen. I think it's pretty obvious why this turns up as one of my 2 recommendations for the week. My second recommendation is, if you've ever wondered why it's so easy to get pulled deeper and deeper online, this podcast explains it. It's called Rabbit Hole, and it's an 8-part series from the New York Times, hosted by tech reporter Kevin Roose. It follows one young man's YouTube journey from casual curiosity to full-on obsession, and asks what happens when the internet starts shaping not just our clicks, but our beliefs. It's a fascinating, sometimes unsettling listen, but also beautifully produced. I like it because it reminds us how algorithms can nudge us without our noticing, and how much better it feels to choose our own rabbit holes intentionally. Although Rabbit Hole was produced in 2020, it's still very relevant. I highly recommend it, and like the aiGED podcast, it's available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, here's your homework for the week. Pick a few things you might want to go down a rabbit hole for on purpose. It could be anything. A topic you've always wanted to understand, something you're interested in learning more about, or even a hobby you've been curious about. Then open up GPT or whatever AI you have engaged with and let it help you start the journey. Plan it, explore it, and see where it leads. Because the best rabbit holes aren't the ones that trap us, they're the ones we choose. Okie dokie, it's time to wrap up. So let me close by reminding us that AI is both helpful and hazardous. At aiGED, we live on the helpful side, but protect yourself, protect your info, double-check advice, and trust your judgment. Reminder, you'll find links and information about news stories, recommendations, and the main topic in this episode in our show notes. Just scroll down on the episode page on your podcast platform. You'll see them. If you love listening to this podcast, please leave a review and/or a rating, and please share it, especially with your pals in the 65-plus crowd. Thanks for listening, and remember, it is never too late to learn something new especially something that might make life easier and especially more fun. Bitsy, you have any final words?
Well, Ginny, I'll just say this. It's been an absolute blast hopping down the rabbit hole with you all today. So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity up, pick your rabbit holes on purpose, and let's make exploring something new a real joy. Thanks for having me along for the ride, and I can't wait to see what adventures you all dive into next.
Until next time.